You wrote down in your journal that Mielle would be acquired by Procter & Gamble.
Before I even knew that we were going to have a meeting with Procter & Gamble.
This acquisition was the largest of any Black beauty founder ever. There have been people who have made so many comments about this acquisition. Well, what are you going to pass down to your children? What do you say to people who are the critics that have said the formula has changed? It's not the same since she sold out. She sold her business. What do you say to those people? People look at you, they see this beautiful, very polished, put together woman, and your mother as a child was telling you to hide your jewelry and your money so your father didn't steal it.
My dad has been using since he was 14.
Have you ever talked to your father about what happened at 14 years old to your father that took him down this journey that has really set him up for this life?
You know what?
The loss of Milan, your son, that birthed your assignment. What that grief propelled was Mielle Organics.
Yeah.
You have this spirit of never giving up.
You know, growing up how I grew up, surviving, I knew that there was no options. You have to have the spirit of resilience. God, he doesn't want us to give up. He wants us to trust him and have faith. He does not want us to give up. He didn't give us that spirit. That spirit is from the enemy.
What is that one link that if you give any entrepreneur who's listening that says you need this one piece in the recipe to be the best that you can absolutely be, what would it be? Welcome to Vault Empowers Talks, where we don't just scratch the surface, we dive deep into the lives of some of the world's most influential change makers. I'm your host, Brandi Harvey. Y'all, we got a fantastic show for you today. Monique Rodriguez is the founder and CEO of Mielle Organics, one of the fastest growing hair brands in the textured hair category. After launching the brand with her husband in 2014, Monique saw immediate success. Monique has notably secured the largest exit ever for a Black beauty founder when Mielle was acquired by Procter & Gamble in 2023. As a part of the deal, P&G and Mielle have both committed $10 million to the nonprofit Mielle Cares, which is focused on providing resources and support to advance education and economic opportunities in Black and Brown communities. Monique has been featured on The Steve Harvey Show, Tamron Hall, CBS, Forbes, and Essence Magazine, just to name a few. Monique believes if you want to dream big, you've got to act big. Vault Empowers Talks welcome wife, mother, entrepreneur, and philanthropist Monique Rodriguez to the show.
Thank you.
You
gave me goosebumps reading my bio.
I love that. Listen, I want you to feel that way when you sit in the seat. You've done some amazing things in the world.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You definitely made me feel that way. I appreciate that.
My job is done. We can cut the show right now.
Right, we're done.
Thank you for joining me. You are on your world tour right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
This tour life is it's a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine.
How these entertainers do this, but it's worth it. It's worth it.
You are promoting your new book.
Yes.
And there is so much glory in your story. And there's been so much that you've endured to be able to sit in this seat as a founder, as a CEO, as a philanthropist. But 22 years old, you were a nurse,
yes,
a registered nurse. Your husband was working for UPS.
Yes.
He started working there in high school.
When he was like 16.
Yeah. It's a great place to work out here, UPS.
Yes, it is.
But he eventually became an engineer. You were a nurse. I mean, but the entrepreneur spirit has always been there. You sold cable. You sold Avon. You was a Mary Kay lady.
Yes.
I know we all had
I wanted the pink Cadillac.
I know you did. Listen. Everybody wanted that pink Cadillac.
Yes.
You sold candles.
Yes.
But you have this spirit of never giving up.
Yes. It's you have to have that spirit. That's the tenacity. That's what it takes to be an entrepreneur. Like, you have to have the spirit of resilience, because when you finally find something that works, you're still going to have obstacles, right? You're still going to have hurdles that you are going to need to overcome. And you have to have that spirit of, like, I'm not going to give up, because giving up is not an option. Like, you have to take that out of your vocabulary.
Yeah.
And, growing up how I grew up, surviving, I knew that there was no options. Once I left my nursing career and gave 100% of my time to Mielle, there was no looking back, because I was not going to go back to the career that I was not happy with. And so I had to keep pushing forward. My husband and I, we built the company together, And we made a commitment to each other that we were going to give this brand 1,000% of our time, effort, and energy, and just continue pushing it forward because we knew that God gave me this vision and that He was going to equip me with everything that I need to be successful. He's going to give me the resources, the money, the people, right? It wasn't for me to figure out how everything was going to come together, but I knew that it would eventually come together. I just had to trust. And God, He doesn't want us to give up. He wants us to trust Him and have faith, right? So I feel like if I'm giving up, I am doing a disservice. I'm not being obedient because He does not want us to give up. He didn't give us that spirit. That spirit is from the enemy.
Yeah, the spirit
Now,
is
there
from the
are
enemy.
times where you have to make sound decisions and ask yourself, is this something that I need to do right now, or do I need to pivot, right? So I know that there are entrepreneurs that may be in a place in their business where, they may have been doing it for 15 plus years and they haven't really been getting any traction. And you have to get still and ask yourself and ask God, what is your purpose for me? Is this something that I should be doing, or do I need to pivot? So it really is based on your direction and being still with God. What is God directing and telling you to do? Is He telling you to move on to something else? And some entrepreneurs will look at that as giving up, but you're not giving up. That's just a chapter that's ending, and God is taking you to a new beginning.
Yeah, a new beginning. I mean, you talk about the pivot because there were 2 moments when you thought you were supposed to go back and get your master's degree in nursing, and it was like,
Yeah.
I need you to focus here.
Yeah.
Focus all your attention here.
Yeah, and that's a great point because you would look at the fact that I went back to school twice, that I gave up, but I was being redirected because every time I went back to school to further my nursing career, I would get pregnant, I would have the baby early, and I would be forced to withdraw from my program because my priority is my kids. I want to take care of my kids. So the first time I went back to school, I got pregnant with Mackenzie, my youngest daughter, and she was born prematurely. She was born 2 months early, and I was in the middle of the program, and she had to stay in the hospital for 2 months. So my focus is not on finishing school. My focus is on making sure that my baby is thriving and she's going to grow and come home with us. So the second time I went back to school, I had actually just enrolled into a master's nursing program, and I found out I was pregnant with my son. And I remember thinking wow, I just enrolled in school, and now I'm pregnant, and what's going to happen here? And unfortunately, my son passed away, and I had to withdraw from the program because that was so far from my mind. And I just look at that as God was just redirecting me, and I wasn't being obedient to the calling. I always felt that God was pulling me in a different direction because I've always had the entrepreneurial bug. As you talked about the direct sales, Mary Kay, Scentsy, that bug has always been nugging and pulling at me, but I wasn't obedient because of fear, of doubt, of not being confident, of not trusting the process, not believing in myself, not seeing entrepreneurs that look like me that were building and operating multi-million-dollar businesses. So in my eyes, you can't be what you don't see. That was my thinking, and I didn't see it. So it was okay, let me just go back to what's comfortable and what's safe, right? And God does not want us to just live a comfortable and safe life where we're scared to take risks that are going to change a trajectory for the better for our lives. God wants us to have faith and to trust Him, right? And I was playing safe because that was all that I knew. I was afraid to take risks. I was afraid to step out on faith. And God had a way of showing me that's not your purpose. This is the purpose and the path that I'm leading you to, but you're not listening.
I mean, we have to go back because the book is dedicated to Milan.
Yes.
You dedicate the book to Milan. He is your son. He was born in 2013, and then he passed after 8 months. He was 8 months old.
So I was 8 months pregnant when I had him. So he was born 1 month early, and then he was born with the brain injury from the high-risk pregnancy. We kept him on life support for 6 months.
that was such a pivotal moment
Mm-hmm.
in you and your husband's life. I mean, your entire family, because your daughter, everybody was affected
Yeah.
in this moment when your son is on life support, the stress, the grief, the loss. But you said a line in the book, and you said, grieving loss while still hold on, I'm going to get it right. Grieving loss while holding on to a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
Grieving loss while holding on to a miracle. Because that birthed your assignment,
Yeah.
you said in the book. The loss of Milan, your son, and what that grief propelled was Mielle Organics.
Yeah. And at the time, obviously, when he passed away, I didn't know that Mielle would be birthed, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't even like something that I was focused on. But what brought me joy in the midst of like pain and what kept me from being depressed, because also postpartum depression was very real. And I'm just so thankful that I didn't get to that point, because I feel like God kept me. I had 2 girls that I had to be mentally sane for.
Yeah.
They were so young. They were 4 and 8 when he passed away. So I had to like be whole for them. I didn't want them to see me break. And I just felt that I had to do something and focus and shift my focus on what brought me joy and shift my focus from going through the grief. And the first thing that we did was we started going to church. After the passing of my son, my husband and I, we both got saved. So our journey with our walk with Christ is what saved us.
Wow.
That's what saved me, because there was no one for me to lean on. Like, of course, my support system, my mom, you know, my husband, he was super supportive during that time, but they still couldn't help me get through that. The only spirit that helped me get through that journey was leaning on my faith in God. And then the second thing was, once I surrendered and we let go, that's when God started giving me visions. And my visions went back to things that I used to do as a child. I used to love hair care. I used to love the beauty space. When I was younger, I wanted to be the little girl on the Just For Me Relaxer kit. That was my aspiration, because that's what I saw. I would beg my mom to take me to model calls when I was younger. So that was it was reminding me of like, this is what brought you joy as a kid. Like when I tell people about like finding and discovering your passion, I always tell people, what was the thing that you did as a child that you did effortlessly, that everyone knew you for, that didn't feel like you had to work for it. It's something that came naturally. And for me, that was being in the beauty space. It was something that brought me so much joy. So I started on social media talking about hair. You know, not creating the brand that you see here today, but it was really just, let me go on here and talk about how I'm styling my hair today. And that eventually continued to evolve into the brand that you see before you. But it really just started as a way to creatively express myself and an outlet to get my mind off of the pain.
Yeah, the pain. I think that there are so many people, they look at you and your husband and they see you all out in the forefront together. And there are some critics out here who talk about, why her husband all in the video? Why he all in the picture?
Yes.
Not understanding that through this birthing of this business, you all did this hand in hand together. This was not just you. You had the support from the very beginning, and you pulled on a skill set that he had that you didn't have in birthing this business.
Correct. Yeah. And that's what people don't truly understand, how big of an impact he had with building Mielle. You know, I am a visionary. I am a creative. I am not a logistical operation, analytical. I don't use that part of my brain, right? But he does. He's very analytical. He's very detail oriented. He's an executor.
He's an engineer.
He's an engineer, right? So just think that's how his brain works. And, you know, when I had the vision, I told him my idea. And when we put everything together, I started working on like formulations, product testing, packaging. That's what I was doing the creative part in the very beginning of just like, okay, this is what I'm going to do to get this out there into the world. So he did not have any input from like the thought idea to bringing it to fruition from a creative standpoint. The website design, like that was all me just getting things off the ground. And then when we launched on May 23rd, 2014, and we had one product. And the day that we launched, the oil just like we sold out of every bottle of inventory that we had. And here I am, and I'm like, okay, this got to ship out.
Yeah.
So now I need the operational aspect of it.
Come on, UPS engineer.
And he came on board like immediately without a question and just implemented processes and systems. We had a full operation at that time out of our basement, right? And then we moved to the garage, and he set up a full like supply chain system, time clock where people can come in and clock in and out, set up payroll systems, finances. Like he did all of that operational back end stuff that I quite frankly didn't want to do, don't like doing. I wanted to stay in my creative lane. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, you know, that's something that they tend to suffer with. It's because as an entrepreneur, you feel like you need to do everything. Right. You have to be the visionary, the marketer, the PR. You have to be the operations, the finance, the logistics. There's no way you can do all of that together, right? You have to be able to understand where your strengths are. What are you good at? What are the areas that you're not good at? And how can you find the right partner to complement you so you can be a dynamic duo and build something great? And I think I've always been very good at identifying where I'm strong and where I'm weak and finding the smart people in the areas that I'm not weak. And it's okay to say, I'm a CEO and I don't know everything. You're not supposed to know everything.
Exactly.
You can't know everything, right? Because what you do is you'll take the time and energy that takes away from the areas that you're good at. So if you are the visionary, you are the creative, you need brain space to create, right? And if you're focused on trying to figure out how to balance this P&L statement, that's not a great use of your time. And so that's how we complemented each other. And I really wanted people to understand that, you know, he's just always been very supportive, right? Because he didn't have to support my vision. He could have just said, okay, this is great. This is what you're doing. Go ahead and build this company. You figure it out yourself. But he's like, no, you're my wife. I'm going to support you, and we're going to grow this together. So from the very beginning, from when we started shipping, he's been 100% by my side on the backside of the business, which is what people don't see.
Yeah. I mean, you all met when you were in 8th grade.
Yeah. Well, I was in 7th. He was in 8th grade.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you all started dating in high school.
Yes.
You said the qualities that he had, he was a great listener.
Mm-hmm.
And he adapted accordingly all the time. He listened to you. He was always there for your needs.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that kind of speaks to how he's always been this constant in your life. But you say in the book that you all bonded under some traumatic childhood experiences. And those were the things that really kind of brought you all together at a young age. What were some of those experiences?
Excuse me. Yeah. So he grew up without his mom being present in his household. And he grew up by a single dad that raised him and did the best that he could to try to provide for him. And we were both pretty much low middle class families that lived in the same area. We went to the same junior high school, same high school. So we didn't have a lot. You know, he tells me stories that there were times where he didn't have running hot water. There were times that he had to eat syrup sandwiches, right? So we had like those childhood experiences that we bonded over because we came together at a very young age and said, like, this is something, we want to do something different for our family.
Yeah.
You know, when we do get to that point and we start having kids and get married, like, we want to have a 2-parent household. Like, we want to be together and raise our kids and just change the trajectory of our family lineage and generations that's moving forward after us, right? And then he came to my household, and I remember being young, and I was actually, like, embarrassed. I used to be embarrassed to invite people over because of my dad's struggle. And I used to feel that people would judge me for his addiction.
Yeah.
And they would count me out or put me in that same category that was my future plan as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually asked him recently, I said, when you would come around and, you know, you would obviously see my family dynamics and environment and see my dad and how he operated, why didn't you run? Because like, I'm just thinking like if that was me at a young age and I didn't come from this and I came into an environment where I saw this drug addiction and this was not something that I'm used to seeing, I would probably be like, oh, like I can't be a part of this family. Like I can't deal with you,
Yeah.
right? Because I don't know what your trajectory looks
Yeah.
like. But he was like, honestly, that's what drew me closer to you, because he's like, I didn't see those qualities in you. And he's like, I came from that too. My family had that, and we had that in my family. So I understood that it's not a reflection of you,
Yeah.
right? It's a reflection of the choices that that person made. It doesn't have anything to do with you. And I was like, oh, but I never asked him that question. But I just reflected after writing this book. I'm like, man, writing this book and actually like reflecting on everything that I went through as a child, like, you should have ran fast.
I mean, your father's addiction, and you state in the book, he still even, struggles
Yeah, he
to
still
this
struggles
day.
to this day.
But there was a couple stories in the book in talking about your dad. And he wanted you to share this. You said that he wanted you to share this part of your life. He didn't want you to hide that. In his addiction, your father was like the Uber before Uber.
Right. He was a visionary. He still is a visionary, right?
Yeah. He was Uber before Uber. He was doing rides. He was ride sharing
Yes.
before ride share was a thing.
And exist.
Yeah. But that always got him into trouble,
Yes.
right? There was things that always happened, right?
Yep.
And there was moments where he got sober over the years and you got to learn him and know him. But then there was a moment in high school, your sophomore year of high school, and he was shot 4 times.
Yes.
While he was driving some people where he had the feeling when they got in the car that this was not a good idea. He
Correct.
drove them to the location that they asked him to drive them to, and they wanted him to wait. And he sped off afterwards, and they shot in the car.
Correct.
And he was paralyzed from the waist down. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember it was just a very like dark time because I thought I was going to lose my dad.
Yeah.
And I just knew that after experiencing that with him, that he was going to get his life together, he was going to get clean, and he did. And he was clean for the time that he was healing from that. And he went right back to using once he was able to get right back on his feet. And it was hurtful. And that's why I have the self-awareness to know, like, even as an adult, I have trust issues. Because when you have your dad, your first love, that continues to lie to you, continues to say that they're going to get clean, they're going to get their act together so they can be whole and present for you, and then they continue to disappoint you, that was my first example, right? So if he can't tell me the truth and he can't get himself together, like, how can I trust people on the outside, right? But I had to learn to overcome that, and I had to learn that it's not a matter of him lying to you. It's a matter that he has a disease, he has a sickness that has a stronghold over him.
Yeah.
And it's a very, my dad has been using since he was 14.
Wow.
And so the younger you are when you start using, the more impressionable your brain is, right? And so when you start using at that age, that's kind of the age that you stop growing. So he has technically not matured since the age of 14 because he has damaged his brain cells, right? That has, like, the frontal cortex where we make sound decisions has probably never developed because he started using so young. So he didn't give his brain an opportunity to develop.
I mean, you talked about in the book that it was your mother's resilience. You learned so much from your mother's resilience in dealing with that and coping with your father and learning how to navigate space with your father. But your father taught you empathy. And so have you ever talked to your father about what happened at 14 years old to your father that took him down this journey that has really set him up for this life?
You know what? I have wanted to, and I feel like I have when I was younger, but he doesn't talk about it.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I also deal with, but I know it's not my battle to fight. But I do deal with, like, man, I wonder what happened. Like, just tell me your story.
Because something happened.
Something happened.
Yeah, 14, something happened.
And I'm not I don't want to judge you. I just want to be able to empathize with you and try to like help get you the help that you need. But I can't help someone that doesn't want to be helped, or someone that doesn't want to open up and tell me like what caused the addiction. Because to your point, I 100% agree. I want to know what caused you to even start using. What pain were you masking
Absolutely.
at the age of 14?
Yeah.
And I have not been able to get to that point yet.
Wow. I mean, maybe there will be this opportunity, because I think more and more as you start to share your own story, this might really give him the permission slip to say, okay, I'm a grandfather, you know, I have these beautiful children who have survived and thrived, you know, in so many different ways. But I want you to talk about your mother, because you talk about your mother's resilience, because even growing up, I mean, people look at you, they see this beautiful, very polished, put together woman, and your mother as a child was telling you to hide your jewelry and your money so your father didn't steal it. You know, y'all was hiding car keys because he was real good at stealing cars.
Yeah, he was great at what he did.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, when you deal with addiction, they will get very creative on how they, you know, satisfy their habit.
Yeah.
And when it came to jewelry, because he would steal it and he would pawn it, and he would get the money to do whatever he wanted to do with it. And his thinking was, well, when I get my check, I'm going to go get it out the pawn shop and I'll replace it so they'll never know that it's missing. But we would see that it was missing. So then we came to the point of like, okay, we got to put stuff up so, you know, he can't get access to it. And if he needed to make a run, because that was his thing, I got to go make a run, or if he needed to pick up someone, or if somebody gave him a phone call to meet him up somewhere, if he had access to a car, he would take your car and go joyriding and probably do things like Uber. Like, you know, he wasn't trustworthy. Like, we couldn't trust him because of the addiction. And we knew that he would be willing to do anything and didn't care if it hurt our feelings or my mom's feelings. But again, it affected me with trusting people, right? I can't trust my dad in the house with my stuff. So even when I was younger, and, you know, we would have, you know, cleaning people. When I first started, like, being able to have people come clean my house, I would be nervous because I would, like, hide stuff. And, you know, I'd be like, oh, well, I don't want them to steal my stuff. So I got to so those same type of, like, childhood traumas and habits would come to fruition. And I had to, like, stop myself in my tracks. Like, you don't live with a drug addict. This is their job. These are people that have background checks. Like, I have to retrain my brain to heal from all of that growing up, because it really did affect me as a kid growing up, because no child should have to grow up with a parent afraid that that parent is going to steal from them.
Yeah. How is your relationship with your mother? Because she taught you this resilience and these coping skills and how to navigate in the world. How did that really transfer over into your relationship with your mom?
Yeah, my mom and I, we have a great relationship. She has taught me to be the woman that I am today, to be strong, to be resilient, to be focused, because my mom was always very adamant of making sure that we stayed busy to try to distract us from what was going on at home. And I do feel that a lot of the ways that she coped with my dad's addiction were probably not necessarily healthy. And I do feel that, especially my brother and I, it's two of us, we tend to pick up some of those unhealthy coping habits, which I've learned through therapy, right? You know, in Black families, you just sweep things under the rug. That's not okay.
Yeah. What are some of those coping?
Sweeping things under the rug, acting like it didn't exist, because it was like, for her, if we don't talk about it, it didn't happen. And that's not healthy.
I mean, we all have experienced that, right? In our families.
Yeah. And that's not something that I want to pass down to my kids. I want to pass down communication. Like, you get through situations by communicating, not acting like it didn't happen. But that was all that she knew growing up, because she's from her family's from the South. That was the Southern way of, like, you know, what goes on in this house stays in this house.
Yeah.
we're not going to talk about
Yeah.
it. Do as I say, not as I do. Don't question me. You know, that was kind of like the rules that were in our house, and it wasn't necessarily like a healthy coping or a way to deal with the situations. Like, I feel that even at a young age, my brother and I should have been in therapy,
Yeah.
you know.
For sure.
But as we're adults and now we're seeking therapists to heal from the therapy that we should have gotten and the trauma that we should have gotten as a kid. But again, I can't blame her for what she didn't know. What I can focus on is how she raised me, the values that she's instilled in me. The mother that I am today is because of the mother that she was to me and that she still is. And, you know, just teaching me and passing down wisdom, you know, from her mom and from generations to generations that has taught me to just always be on guard, which sometimes can be not good too, because you can be so guarded that you miss out on potential blessings from you.
Yeah, because it's a wall.
It's a wall,
it can
right?
be a
But
wall.
she's taught me that. And so I am guarded to a certain extent, but I've also learned to have discernment. So I pray that God gives me the discernment so I don't have this wall up, and I'm able to be more open to people, to let them in, and trust that God is going to give me the guidance of knowing who should be in my inner circle and who shouldn't, or who I should just keep at a distance. She's taught me, you know, how to be the polished individual that I am. My mom was very big on appearance and making sure that you show up. Like, when you don't leave this house with a bonnet on your head.
Yeah, come
right?
on.
It wasn't a bonnet then,
we
but
need
you know,
more mamas like ours. Listen.
she was very old school, like very old school.
Yeah.
Like, you know, make sure that your hair is always maintained. Make sure that you look presentable. Be on time. So just like values that I feel like you said old school parents was teaching us when we were younger. She did that, and she kept us grounded. She kept us sane. She kept us whole. And she had no other choice because we were her focus, not my dad.
I love the way, you know, I was at your event, your 10-year anniversary event here in Atlanta
Yes.
when you
And thank you for
celebrated 10
coming.
years. I mean, I feel like, Monique, I've been a part of this journey because when you launched in Target, we were both at the Ubiquitous conference in DC. You had a big event, like Giselle Bryant, myself, we were all there at that event. That was like 2018, maybe.
Yeah.
Like 2018.
Maybe like 7 years ago.
Yeah. And then to celebrate your 10-year last year here in Atlanta, and you said something that really stood out when you got on the microphone. And there have been people who have made so many comments about this acquisition with Procter & Gamble of Mielle Organics. And there have been people who said, well, what are you going to pass down to your children and the legacy for your children? You said, this was my dream, not my children's dream. This was my dream, not my children's dream. I want them to dream their own dream of what they want for their life. And I think that was, when I listened to you say, I said, man, that's so powerful. Because so often as Black people who start these, you know, amazing companies and they become acquired, and oftentimes we forget that that's the thing that we want to do. We want to have our businesses acquired. We want to scale them in a way that they are profitable, that can, you know, generate money we've never even dreamed of, right? And you said that this was your dream, not your children, and you wanted them to have their own dream. I thought that was just so powerful. What do you say to people who are the critics and the naysayers that have said the formula has changed? It's not the same since she sold out. She sold her business. What do you say to those people?
What I say to the critics is that I understand why you criticize me, because if I wasn't doing something great, people would have nothing to say.
Yeah.
So I understand that it comes with the territory, criticism, and, you know, people that want to criticize your decisions but have no idea what it takes to be in your shoes or to get to your position, right? People tend to criticize what they don't understand. And criticism also comes from a place of internal projection. So people will tend to internalize and project what they may be insecure about and their fears and their lack of courage, because they don't have the courage to walk a day in my shoes or to make the decisions that I've made, right? And I don't do things for the cheers of the crowd. I do things with purpose and intention, because when you do things for the cheers of the crowd, you fall by the criticism of the crowd.
Yeah.
And people are very fickle. People are very emotional. And I know that. You know, I came from a nursing background, so I understand the empathy and the psychology of like people. And you cannot be driven by the emotional instability of the social media world, because 1 minute they love you, the next minute they hate you. And they did that to Jesus. So if they loved Jesus 1 minute and crucified him the next, what makes any of us think that we are exempt to being criticized in this world? Of course, criticism hurts, it stings, but I know my purpose, and my calling is very divine. And I know that God has called me to do this work. And I know the prayers and the conversations and the journaling that I had with God. And this is the direction and the steps that God has ordered and ordained. And when you criticize that, you're criticizing his purpose and plan. So it's not my battle to fight. It's not my battle to deal with. You have to deal with the creator who put me on this earth to accomplish this. So what I say to the criticisms is, thank you. You only push me and motivate me to go even harder, to be even stronger. And when people question the legacy that I'm leaving for my kids, the legacy that I'm leaving is freedom. The freedom that I didn't have to be 18, graduating high school, and saying, oh, I want to explore and really discover what my passions are and really find my true purpose, versus, no, you have to go to school to be a nurse. You have to finish college. The structure that was put on me and not even giving me the choice to identify and know myself before I was able to even grow up to be an adult and come out into this world, it was already written of what my mom wanted me to do.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that to my kids. I want to give them the freedom and the flexibility to do whatever it is that's positive that they enjoy doing, because that is living a fulfilled life. It is not fulfilling doing something and just going with the everyday okie doke of getting up, doing the same routine, and you're not happy doing it.
Yeah.
That's why there's so many critics, because people have not found their true purpose and they're not happy in their lives.
Amen.
Because happy people don't criticize other people. I don't go on social media
Come on.
and criticize people. If you see a comment from Exquisite Mo, you will see something positive. I have never said anything negative.
Yeah.
I don't have time to do that. So if you are living in a life of misery and being unhappy, yes, you're going to criticize. So I pray for them. I wish them well, but just know that they're not stopping anything.
Yeah. I love that. You're setting them up for a life of freedom, a life that you didn't have. I mean, and you mentioned this and you saying this, that you journaled this because you journal. Talk about manifesting the desires of your heart. Talk about manifesting the life that you deserve.
Mm-hmm.
You wrote down in your journal that Mielle would be acquired by Procter & Gamble.
Before I even knew that we were going to have a meeting with Procter & Gamble.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm saying. These are the conversations that I have with God. My journal is a place, a sacred space where I can sit down and write. God says, write the vision and make it plain.
Yeah.
Right? If he's telling me to do that, then I'm going to go in my closet and I'm going to just start writing. I'm going to write the vision. I'm going to put the work in. I'm going to pray over it. Faith without works is dead. And before we even knew that we would be meeting with Procter & Gamble, we met with a lot of different conglomerates, right, in choosing our partners. So we started this process in August of 2022. In May of 2022, I wrote in my journal, and I have proof that Mielle will be acquired by P&G. Where did that come from? That came from God. God gave me that inspiration to write that down. And I actually forgot that I wrote it down, right? And God will always confirm his word. He will always, this is so powerful, he will always remind you. Because when we were in negotiations with 2 different companies of deciding which way we were going to go, we went to our church and we had our pastor pray. Because we were like, we're torn between these 2 companies. We don't know which direction we want to go in. Like, give us some guidance and prayer. And my pastor started saying, like, there's something about P&G that's jumping in my spirit.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I cannot make this up.
Yeah.
And so that when we got confirmation from our pastor, that's when we went back and we made the decision. Mind you, this was like at midnight. We were in negotiations at midnight on Zoom because we had to make a decision. And once we finally made the decision, we signed all of the documents, did all of the negotiations, and we closed. And I happened to be in my closet getting ready to journal again after the transaction closed. And I'm flicking through my pages. Why the page that I flicked through is a page that reminded me of what I wrote down in May of 2022. When I tell you I had chills, I ran and told my husband, I said, Melvin, you're not going to believe this. I said, look what I wrote down. And this wasn't the first time that I did something like that, right? I said, look what I wrote down. And he looked at the journal and he saw the date and he was like,
unbelievable.
Oh, wow.
Wow. I mean, I got chills while you were telling the story.
I get chills every time I tell the story because I'm like, listen, I have chills. Like, this is nothing but God.
Yeah.
This is God ordained.
Yeah.
So when people want to criticize that, man, I've been through worse.
Yeah.
I've been through much worse. Like, there's nothing that anyone can say on social media that doesn't know me from a can of paint can do to, like, hurt me because it's not even, like, I know why I'm here.
I mean, this acquisition was the largest of any Black beauty founder ever. And undisclosed amount. I mean, so we can't get in them coins, y'all. You know what I'm saying? Just know it was enough for some freedom.
It was great, yes.
Okay? It's enough for freedom. She paid for her freedom papers, okay? Just know that.
That part.
Yeah. I mean, but in this deal, you and P&G, Mielle Cares, you guys have worked to set aside $10 million for Black and brown communities. What is that work that you plan on doing, and how is that money going to be dispersed? What kind of learning tools, what kind of activations can people expect from Mielle Cares?
Yeah, so P&G, they came to the table when we were in negotiations, and they committed, without us even asking, $10 million to Mielle Cares. And then Melvin and I, we matched it. So in totality, it's $20 million to give back to Black and brown communities. And so I really wanted to focus on mental health in tweens and teens because I feel like there's a gap. And we started with our alma mater, our high school that Melvin and I went to together, Thornton Township, and we created a My Mental Mindset program where kids can come together after school and discuss whatever's going on with them mentally. And then we're providing resources, we're providing therapists into the schools to help kids navigate through whatever circumstances or situations that they're going through, because some of these kids are going to school and they can't focus on school and getting good grades or a scholarship or even being an entrepreneur when they don't have the basic necessities, when they're coming to school and they don't have deodorant, or they don't have lunch, or they don't have just anything basic that we can take advantage of or take for granted, And these kids are going to school trying to focus on their education, but also their home environment. We have kids that are the mom because they have 6, 7 brothers and sisters. So we want to be able to provide a safe space and an environment to help create a positive, resilient mindset to set these kids on the right path and the right trajectory with the right tools and resources that they have for mental health, to put down social media, because I do feel that social media is it's a lot for these kids, right?
For sure.
And encouraging them to put down their phones and to really get back to being a teenager, being a kid, and doing the kid things that kids do. And let's then set them up for scholarships and showing them the path and the ropes to becoming an entrepreneur. But we can't do that if we don't get them mentally sound.
Yeah.
And Melvin and I have always felt that a huge part of our success has been contributed to our mindset. So we want to create and shift the mindset in these teens and help them so they can progress in the future.
Yeah. When you say your mindset, you and Melvin's mindset, what is that one piece, that one link that if you could give any entrepreneur who's listening that says you need this one piece in the recipe for your mental, for your mindset to be the best that you can absolutely be, what would it be?
Ooh, one piece I would say, you have to be able to dream big. I'm actually going to say two things. and you have to know that you deserve success.
Yeah. You say one of the chapters in the book is dream big, act big. I mean, well, that's one of the lines in the
Yeah,
book. You have to
yeah.
dream big and act big.
So I think it's two things. You have to dream big, and you have to know that success, it comes to me. Like, I deserve it. And I say that because when I was younger, I used to see people that were deemed successful, right? And I would say, oh, they were lucky, or, they had parents that helped them,
Yeah.
or they came from a wealthy background, and that's why they become successful. No, they just had a different mindset. They're not just lucky, right? They felt in their spirit that they deserved success, that they had the ability to dream big. And that's another thing with our kids and the My Mental Mindset program. They're not in environments and circumstances that are conducive of them dreaming big.
Yeah.
I wasn't in an environment. I come from the same neighborhood that they come from. But I want to encourage them to think outside of the box, to see beyond, their current circumstances, and to be exposed. So a lot of the things that we do also is exposing them to different environments. Like, we take them on field trips, and we put them in communities and environments that came to our warehouse. So we're a huge part of, like, helping them see, like, the possibilities, right? That someone that came from the same area that I came from, that we're not taught how to dream, but look at what they've accomplished. So if you dream big and you have the mindset that I deserve success, success comes to me. I don't operate from a space of lack. I operate from a space of abundance.
Yeah.
It's going to flow. It's going to come to you. So you got to start just speak things that are not as though they were.
Yeah.
That's what the Bible tells us.
I mean, you talk about it so much in the book. You talk about, especially as you get towards the end of the book, I mean, it becomes all about the abundance, the mindset shift, how you can start to activate your faith in a greater way. And your faith is so activated. I mean, you used to do the live prayer call every morning, and so your faith has really anchored you in previous seasons, but it's carrying you in this one as well.
For sure. Absolutely. And I feel that my faith has just kept me so strong, even in the midst of, like, criticism and public criticism, right, where everyone is seeing what's going on. But I do feel that God is also using me as an example to show that my child can remain steadfast, and she knows her anointing no matter what the world says about her, right?
Yeah.
And I feel that it also shows other people that, man, despite, situations or the public criticism or the ups and downs, like, that's what people see, but people also don't see the back end. So there are people that are going through things on the back end of their business and entrepreneurship that the public doesn't see. And if they can look at me and say, oh, she's still standing, she's still pushing forward, she's handling this with such grace, class, and poise, like, I can do the same thing. So that's why I don't, like, acknowledge it or even, like, feed into it, because I know that I am a leading example of what God wants his children to see, how to stand firm in the face of adversity. And so I want people to understand that my faith is the only thing that has anchored me and has kept me grounded.
Yeah, your faith has kept you grounded. As we begin to close out this interview, I ask everyone who sits in that seat one word you are committed to in this season of your life.
One word that I'm committed to in this season of my life is love.
Why?
Because we're here to love everyone. We may not like everyone, but as long as we are loving, we will receive that back. And so I just want to move with intention and be able to extend love into this world, because we live in a world where there's so much going on, so many people hurting. And if I can just make someone's day by saying, girl, look at your outfit. You look so cute.
Yeah.
Like, you look amazing. That may be the only thing that they have heard positive for that day. And I want to receive that energy back. So I feel that the energy that you put out there, you will get right back to you. So I want to move with love into this world of a lot of hate.
Monique, I think that this book, I mean, everything that you talked about in this interview today, you sum it up in this book. You give so much of your life story that people would never even imagine, from the addiction to all the hurdles that you've had to jump. to every move that you've made, but the love that you and your husband have shared with each other, the bond that you've created, the love that you've given to your children, and that same love that you've poured out into your business. So I think for every person who is watching, for every brand, every girl who's an influencer, every CEO, if you think you want to start a something, if you got you some shea butter in your basement,
Yes.
if you got you a hair oil, this is the book you need. The Glory in Your Story. Monique Rodriguez, thank you so much for joining me today.
You.
Absolute pleasure. Much continued success. You are phenomenal. Thank you for sitting that seat. Vault Empowers Talks, another good one for the books. There's some glory in your story, but make sure you loving somebody today.
Yeah.
Be sure to share this with somebody who needs a little more love in their life. Until next time, I'm your girl, Brandi Harvey. Eat well, give a damn, move your body every single day. Peace.